से चालू करके जाइए. Hello everyone, very logical day to all of you, and yes, you have to stay logical throughout the month, because this is what we are going to do now in this month is we'll be coming up with the questions based on the passage but related to the critical reasoning part, right? So let us see how we will improve, probably, and I hope you improve in the performances, in your marks, and gradually your scale, your grades should increase, right? So let us see what we have here on September 4th, the first editorial of the Indian Express. So SEBI must answer. SEBI must answer, so you should know the full form of SEBI. Okay, you all come up with your GK and CLAT cam and what not. सब करते हैं ना, तो फुल फॉर्म्स तो आना ही चाहिए तुम्हें. और मस्ट आंसर में मस्ट का आ जाएगा आपका लॉजिकल यूसेज दैट it is supposed to answer now. What questions do we have? Let us see that. So the reading part of the passage would be like 2 or 3 paragraphs. What you need to focus now is your analytical reading skills, your logical reading skills, so that you are able to understand the assumptions, if I ask so, and you can draw the conclusions and draw the inferences, right? So here, now the first part would be following the rout in the stocks of companies of the Adani Group after publication of the Hindenburg report, the Securities and Exchange Board. So here we get the full form of SEBI also. Began to look into the gamut of issues this episode has raised. इस सिंगल से एपिसोड से कितने सारे क्वेश्चंस आ गए हैं बाहर. That is what is the author is talking of, including allegations against the group. So against the which group? The Adani group, right? And possible manipulation of the stock prices. कई सारे allegations हैं, कई सारे questions हैं इसी ग्रुप के ऊपर after that Hindenburg report. So possible allegations, possible manipulations of stock prices subsequently, subsequent is ensuing, following the report of the expert committee appointed by the Supreme Court broadly outlined the scope and extent of SEBI's investigation. It broadly outlined the scope and extent of the investigation. यहाँ तक हमें समझ में आ जाना चाहिए that as a result what happened, right, and what was the issue here. While the committee concluded that there was no evidence of regulatory failure, but the conclusion किसका है? Committee का. So if there's a question related to what is which of the following statements is according to or strengthening the conclusion of the committee, then you understand this. If it is asking something that is weakening the conclusion of the committee, again you need to come to this only, because it is not talking about the author or not of the SEBI. कुछ नहीं. Committee के बारे में पूछा है, तो then you come here, right? There was no evidence of regulatory failure. Several reports over the past week which provide granular details on issues. Granular details on issues मतलब छोटे-छोटे से details भी आ गए हैं. Issues such as minimum public shareholding and stock market activity suggest otherwise. Suggest otherwise would mean कि इसने तो कहा, कमिटी ने कंक्लूड क्या किया, that there was no evidence of regulatory failure. कुछ भी फेल नहीं हुआ है, रेगुलेशन में कोई कमी नहीं है, but it is proved or it is suggested otherwise by this. Now these reports point towards gaps in the regulatory architecture and raise questions that the stock market regulator needs to address urgently. So the committee said that there has been no regulatory failure as such, but the minute details on the issues as money, minimum public shareholding and stock market, all these things, minute details would suggest otherwise means there has been a regulatory failure. Now these reports, they point towards a regulatory architecture में gaps. That means you failed to do something, and therefore raises the questions that the stock market regulator needs to address urgently. इन्होंने जो कहा कि no failure, इसने कहा failure तो है, there are gaps, and therefore SEBI needs to address these questions urgently. फटाफट उन्हें जवाब देना पड़ेगा, right? So I hope you have understood this part along with the conclusion, along with the inference, whatever you can derive. Right. Now, last Tuesday, a report in this paper provided details of an investigation by the ED, which concluded. Now, this investigation carried out by the ED, अब उसका conclusion. इसके पहले जो सेबी कमिटी थी उसका conclusion था. अगर question होता है तो या तो कमिटी के conclusion पे आएगा या तो ED के conclusion पे आ जाएगा, right? So you need to go there then. There are a dozen companies, including the foreign investors based in tax havens, were top beneficiaries. So these companies were the beneficiaries from the short selling of companies of the Adani Group. So who was the beneficiary? These dozen companies. Some of these investors had, in fact, taken positions just a few days before the release. ये एक हिडनबर्ग रिपोर्ट के पहले कुछ लोगों को वो पोजीशन दी गई थी, राइट? सो हिडनबर्ग रिपोर्ट के हिसाब से वॉट एवर इज डन हियर, दोज पीपल विल बी द बेनिफिशियरीज देन, राइट? नन ऑफ दीज एंटिटीज हाउएवर are reported to have disclosed their ownership structures to income tax authorities. As per the report, ED had shared its findings with SEBI. A few days after that, another report detailed how two individuals, one from the UAE and another from Taiwan, who had taken large positions in the Adani Group companies, were associates of Vinod Adani, that is Gautam Adani's brother. Here this person is giving you the evidence or the link, right? The link would point out to something. Otherwise, why would the author give us this? If these individuals were to be considered as proxies for Vinod Adani and treated as part of the promoter group, it would imply just a second. It would imply that the Adani Group companies may have violated the stock market groups. So if they were to be considered as proxies for Vinod Adani and treated as part of the promoter group, it would imply that the Adani Group companies may have violated the stock market values. ऐसा माना जा सकता है. So we can conclude something from here, we can infer many things from here, or there can be a question on assumption. मतलब हर कहीं पे हमारे पास assumption, inference आ सकते हैं questions. Now another report in this paper showed that two offshore shell companies registered in the British Virgin Islands that are said to have invested in Adani Group stocks are also linked to the group. Now the denials issued by the Adani Group have done little to address the concerns. Done little means not done much. तो ये जो questions raise हुए हैं, right? और ये जो evidences मिल रहे हैं, trying to link the dots, trying to join the dots, but these concerns are not yet being addressed. This is what the author says. Questions have also been raised, again the same thing, and rightfully so. So see, this use of this small word in between the two commas means this is the author's own opinion in between. Questions have been raised, ये एक fact है. Rightfully so, author का judgment है. You need to focus now on fact, inference, judgments also, where you are able to understand those points, right? So rightfully so about SEBI. If the legislative policy of the regulator moves in the opposite direction of the investigation and enforcement, it limits its operational space and curtails. अगर curtails का meaning नहीं आता है तो limits के साथ आप relate कर दो. Operational space is limited and it curtails its ability to carry forward its responsibilities. Right? Abilities are curtailed. They are not able to forward their responsibility, carry forward. Apprehensions are also stoked when a former SEBI chairman, to whose tenure some of the allegations made in the reports can be traced. उसके tenure, उसका time period कहाँ तक था, कितना था, वो अगर trace हो जाता है, allegations made in the reports can be traced, it becomes an independent director and non-executive chairperson of a new channel owned by the Adani Group. He becomes an independent director and a non-executive chairperson. Now, as the stock market regulator, यहाँ पे एक और word आया था stoked. Stoked का मतलब होता है हवा देना, किसी भी चीज़ को और उकसा देना, promote करना, instigate करना. So it is fueled, you can say. Stoking is to fuel. Right. So owned by the Adani Group. As a stock market regulator, whose primary duty is to ensure the integrity of the markets, ये duty responsibilities हैं, and protect the interests of the investors, SEBI would do well to address the questions raised in a comprehensive manner. मतलब evasive answers नहीं देने, जो questions उठाए हैं, जो allegations लगाए हैं, उसके सीधे सीधे सही जवाब SEBI को देना पड़ेगा. Takes us back to the heading where it said that SEBI must answer. Right? जो questions raised हुए, SEBI should be answering them now, and this is the author's point, that SEBI should come up with a very comprehensive answer to the questions raised, which are rightfully so. Right? So I hope you have understood this now. So the main idea will be a combination of all this. So regulator, SEBI ho gaya, needs to address questions that have been raised in Adani matter. So questions have been raised, first point, right? Regulator needs to answer, second point, and the matters for investor confidence too. That means this investor, SEBI is supposed to come up with its responsibilities and duties well, and the questions that have been raised should be answered well again by the SEBI, being a regulator there, and this is going to bring in confidence of the investors in the regulatory body SEBI. Right? I hope you have understood this now. Coming to the question part, yes. So the inference drawn should be from the first paragraph when I marked कि आखिरी के 3-4 लाइन्स में से हम आराम से inference बना सकते हैं. ठीक है? Assumptions, one assumption from the second paragraph, second slide you can say, or anyhow आप एक assumption दे देना. Why I am marking this slide 1 and slide 2? I am only giving you an indication that this is where you can come up with assumptions, right? And conclusion again from the second slide only. तो second slide में से एक assumption बन जाएगा, एक conclusion हो जाएगा, and which I have discussed also. And then of course overall the argument of the author, that will be in the main idea, how and what he is stating, his own opinion to that, right? The whole issue. So you have 4 questions, 4 answers, not to take long. And yes, and this is one thing that I'm starting from now on, right? I'll try to give you one word for the tone, and with an example, एक example लिख दूंगी या तो ऐसे ही ले लूंगी, whatever it is, but I hope it helps you to understand the tones, because I have seen that most of you are like troubled, or you don't have that much confidence in yourself कि मैंने tone identify सही किया या नहीं किया, या तो कोई बहुत ज़्यादा focus कर रहा है tones पे and hence getting muddled up or confused, right? So please stay calm, understand the tones one by one. I'll try to incorporate this in every day's editorial discussion, and the only assumption now is that you all are reading, so kindly read, kindly listen to this, So you'll be gaining many more things. धीरे धीरे और कोई आइडियाज होते हैं, यू कैन डेफिनेटली मैसेज मी. अभी मैंने टोन और स्टाइल से करना शुरू किया है, तो लेट दिस मंथ पास विद द टोन एंड स्टाइल, एंड देन वॉट एवर यू प्रॉब्लम यू आर फेसिंग, you can definitely suggest it to me what you want me to help you understand or enumerate something. कुछ short tricks आपको दे सकती हूँ, whatever you want, right? This month I've thought of coming up with the tone and speech. Maybe next time I'll come up with figures of speech and all. Let's see, right? So tone and style में first apologetic tone. So I am sorry. ठीक है, apology हो गया. But I'm sorry I'm not able to give you the editorials on a daily basis. ऐसा भी हो सकता है, थोड़ा सा आगे पीछे हो जा रहा है, तो आई एम रियली सॉरी फॉर दिस. सो व्हेन आई फील लाइक रिग्रेट, ये ऑटोमेटिकली तुम्हें पैसेज पढ़ने पे आ जाएगा दैट पर्सन और द ऑथर फील सॉरी अबाउट समथिंग, राइट? ही इज लाइक नॉट गिल्टी एग्जैक्टली, पर थोड़ा सा उसको रिमोर्स, थोड़ा सा सैड फील करेगा, बट आई डिड नॉट मीन इट दिस वे, राइट? ओ आई एम सॉरी इफ आई हैव हर्ट यू, मैं करना नहीं चाहता था लेकिन हो गया, तो प्लीज बुरा मत मानना, राइट? सो सॉरी वुड बी वन थिंग. रिग्रेट, embarrassment about something, right? How, suppose your brother, your sibling, somebody dropped coffee on your dress, right? And in a grand party, ऐसा हो गया, suppose. Sorry, you'll feel embarrassed. I'm so sorry. My apologies to you if my brother is troubling you. कुछ भी हो सकता है, आप किसी भी सिचुएशन को सोच लो, आ सकता है अपॉलॉजी. बहुत आसान है, लेकिन ये जेन्युइन एंड सिंसियर होती है, ठीक है? सिर्फ एक नकली वाली ओके सॉरी. अगर नॉवेल में भी अगर आप पढ़ोगे ओके सॉरी, आई डिड नॉट मीन इट, बस फुल स्टॉप, इतना, उसमें भी लगेगा दैट पर्सन इज लाइक एरोगेंट सॉर्ट ऑफ. सॉरी तो बोल रहा है, लेकिन क्या वो वाकई सोचता है कि यस ही इज सॉरी? डज ही रियली फील इट? और यही आई डिड नॉट मीन इट को अगर वो थोड़ा सा सिंप्लीफाइड वर्जन में करेगा कि ओ माय गॉड आई एम सो सॉरी, आई रियली डिड नॉट मीन इट, थोड़े से और कुछ वर्ड्स ऐड करेंगे, तो देन इट विल सीम टू बी जेन्युइन एंड सिंसियर, राइट? एंड इट स्पैन्स मल्टीपल सेंटेंसेस. एक ये पॉइंट होती है, आज सिर्फ एक सेंटेंस में बोल के सॉरी, इट्स ओके, आई डिड नॉट मीन इट, खत्म. I really did not mean it, right? That is how it matters. Example, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to offend you at all. उसे at all बोल दिया, मैं वाकई में नहीं परेशान करना चाहता था. It all happened. I'm so sorry, I really didn't mean to hurt you or to offend you. Right? So apologetic tone, regret, embarrassment, genuine, sincere, spans multiple sentences and example. When you are making notes, kindly make this very small, to the point. Bas. I have given most of the words I have given, but I am trying to come up with those words जो मैंने तुम्हें sheet में नहीं, जो sheet में include नहीं है. I'll try to give those first, right? Where you still go wrong, probably. So that's all for today. Thank you, and stay logical, and see you tomorrow. So for the whole week, stay logical.